What's up guys, it's Drac, and I haven't been this excited for a blaster since the Nexus Pro. Because it's a lot like the Nexus Pro. Alright guys, so this is the Stryker from Dart Zone Max. Now, that just appears to be the target version of Adventure Force Pro, which is to say, this thing is remarkably affordable, and if you peek inside, has a lot in common with the old Nexus Pro or NP. And I want to point out that if your number one complaint is that the blaster is reminiscent of the number one blaster on literally every independent reviewer's list from last year, that's a good sign. Like, that's a place you want to be. So in the back we have a lot of different media here. Like, some of it's really silly, like there's a safety lock and a trigger. Those should be pretty similar on the Nexus Pro, I imagine. There's also a main clip release, which is down here. That's going to be your mag release. Obviously, there's a completely new grip, a completely new muzzle brake, a new set of 2 sights, and then something called the detachable tactical scope. That's very interesting. That's like an additional piece. Comes with the same sort of mag setup, it would appear. You've got the half mag and adapter, the magazine for full-length darts, which means that this will probably have a wee bit of slop in it, but not too much. Then you've got a completely new stock attachment that still appears to be using like the old M16 style stock attachment point here, and then a release, and then that stock has the same O-ring storage on board. That means that at the same price as the Nexus Pro, you're theoretically getting very similar performance and a very similar set of features. The grip's going to be different, the stock's going to be different, the ergo is going to be a little bit tweaked, and then there's more optics, which gives you more options. On the front here, we've got a little bit of bombastic language, and I'm not afraid of calling it out when people are in the wrong doing this, but this says Ultimate Dart Blaster Series, and it's hard to argue these. Like, that's a lot. That's a big claim. It's a lot like saying you're the #1 blaster brand. But whereas the #1 blaster brand boast has to be quantified in terms of like units sold, this one's hard to argue with. Like, they're legitimately making the best products on the shelf at incredible prices, given the performance to dollar ratio that you get with a litany of different features on top. So I'm gonna let that one slide. Down here it says, blaster works with all Dart Zone darts and most standard darts from other brands, and that makes sense. I mean, it's got theoretically a breech system similar to the Nexus Pro, which will shoot pretty much anything you put in it. It's got so much power that even in that closed breech system, it'll fire AccuStrike darts. It'll even fire X-Shot darts, which as we all know are a little too light and a little too short to be compatible with a lot of things. This muzzle is a lot of extra muzzle, and it's saying that there's 33 pieces here, which of course is them including the darts. And I want to take a brief aside to talk about the darts. So my favorite part of last year was the introduction of the Adventure Force Pro darts. They were 10 cents a dart, they were available on Walmart shelves, and they were incredible. Coming in at the exact same price point, this is a slightly different dart in a clear package that you can actually, it's kind of got a carry handle so that you can tote it into war. It's like a good way to get your darts in and out, whereas the Adventure Force Pro darts came in a clamshell cardboard and plastic that once you opened it, they kind of, and then you had to throw the plastic away. So this is nice that it's in like superior packaging, just because I can see utility from this packaging. That was one thing that like the headshot ammo guys did really well, is they just sent you the balls in a pouch that you could clip with a carabiner onto your belt and use as a pouch for your rifle reloads. I always really liked that. This isn't quite the same level of like utility, but it's pretty close. Now, the thing that's interesting about these is that they cost the same amount as the AF Pro darts, and they're made by the same company. And I want to talk about the 3 major advantages of this dart. The first one is that if they're anything like the AF Pros, they're going to perform honestly the best. At 10 cents a dart, they should be pretty incredible. It's clear that Dart Zone wants to lean into being the best at making darts right now. And again, in a world where they're putting darts on shelves at 10 cents a pop that perform optimally in virtually every build, it's hard to argue that that's not the case. The fact that they'll also be on shelves at Target now is very exciting, at the same price point, admittedly in a larger quantity. So that's my first pro. Second pro is that they're going to be, you know, just another durable dart option. I can't believe I'm doing this to one of my first ones, but pretty solid glue. Looks to have a similar sort of stem thing. We're ripping foam off of the head when we're separating it there. I think that it's safe to say that these are going to be just as durable as the Adventure Force Pro darts. I'm getting similar resistance when I crack it open that way, and the foam should be of similar quality. The head on the darts is a little bit different in that these are called, what are they called? They're called max accurate half length darts. We're gonna need a name for these. I don't know what to call them. They've got like kind of 3 triangles in there. We could call them diamond darts. We could call them, I don't know. I'll let you guys in the comments help me out with what to call these. They're definitely a different sort of compressible zone than the AF Pros, which just have a circle in there. But I think that the biggest advantage of these is that they're not orange tips with black bodies. Obviously, when they land in grass, they land, you know, head down. like this, and so what you're looking for is frequently like black foam with the orange obscured by whatever you're playing in. This is a bright red foam. It's going to be much easier to find. I assume that if you're red-green colorblind, that might be a little tricky in fresh grass, but in virtually any other terrain, regardless of your color blindness, these should be very solid. I think that the recovery rate for these is going to be very, very high. I can tell you that that's one thing that people bring up pretty often, self included, is like, give us a more visible dart. And this clearly fits the bill. That said, personal bias aside, they're literally red and gray, like red and a nice charcoal gray. Like, that's my jam. Lots of newcomers like to pretend that their colors are red and gray or red and black, but like, they don't have closets full of jerseys dating back a decade. You know what I'm saying? So with that, we've talked about the package of the Stryker. I like that it opens up so that you can see what all comes inside when it's on the shelf, but we're not here for the box, and we're definitely not here for the claims. We're here for the facts. Let's get it out of the package. All right, so we went ahead and fully outfitted it, and all I can say is, ergonomically, this thing is the bee's knees. It's got a lot going on. Let's get into it just kind of as an overall. So overall, the fit is really nice. I think that it's got levels of articulation and adjustment that'll fit smaller Nerfers, not necessarily like really small Nerfers. That said, even if you're well over 6 feet tall, extending to the maximum here where it locks in is quite comfortable. It's quite good. The pump grip is incredibly comfortable. It actually reminds me a lot of the old Elite Alpha Trooper grips. Everything but the ability to wrap your thumb over the top of it. Like, it's definitely quite nice. It's a lower profile than the original kind of Nexus grip, but I don't mind this sort of pump grip. I actually find it to be quite comfortable. I like the sling point attachments on it. Again, just some vaguely EAT feels as a backstop as well is quite nice. I'm not the biggest fan of this monstrous scope up on top, but I will tell you that the fact that it comes with both a large scope, if that's how you want to use it, or these backup iron sights, which honestly remind me a little bit of the Equinox sights in terms of like how they're sort of low profile, and it's the 2 into the 1 up there. It's not quite exactly, but just a little bit. The grip is actually quite good. It's a completely different body of plastic, a lot like the Nexus grip, but the overall grip blends into the shell. So it's just very different. It means that our hex grip's going to need some tweaking for something like this. But honestly, out of the package with this sort of patterning on the stock grip, quite comfortable. The cheek rest is going to be hit or miss. If you really like using a cheek rest, it's actually quite good. It's just enough of a raised difference from the old Nexus that I think that it's going to be quite nice. Then you've still got this venting through here so that you can see your metal barrel inside. Adds a little bit more like kind of meat to the barrel shroud area, which is nice. Then you've got this removable sort of attachment on the front. Really serious like suppressor vibes. Whatever this thin version of the Sandman is, kind of gives me that sort of impression. Overall, the Stryker is very tactical, like very tactical. Some serious real steel inspiration. Hard to argue with the stock attachment point being what it is. Then of course on the back here, you've got the same sort of flip and detent thing you had on the Nexus, which is quite novel if you plan on swapping springs. Conveniently, I know somebody who sells a spring that works in the Nexus, and hopefully that'll work in this, but we'll save that for the very, very end of the video, kind of hinting at a mod guide in the future. As far as its ability to fire full-length darts goes, chamber's pretty consistently, honestly very clean. Then if we drop that out through the mag there, throw in the adapter here. I like this cutout in the magwell, and again, this is going to be seriously hit or miss for you guys. You're either going to really like it, or it's going to be worse than the Nexus in that sense. But the cutout, the flare, kind of gives it a different sort of aesthetic. It almost looks like an N. Perhaps echoes of the true self exist in the new self. Anyways, half-length compatibility is excellent. I'll just take a second here to show you how quickly I can break this down into the setup that I would be using stock out of the box, which is this. Take this off, leave this down, throw that up, put that there, etc. And so like this is probably how I'm going to run my Stryker most of the time. But the half-length performance is excellent. Chambers cleanly. The breech system, which should be very apparent in this video, it looks identical to how the Nexus Pro works. It appears to be chambering into one of those kind of connectors that of course chambers into a sealed barrel with plenty of power behind. Overall, you buy this for the half-length performance, more or less. Like, you can use your old darts with it, but if you're buying a Stryker, I feel like you're moving on up, you're getting into more serious kind of play, and the half-length platform is just where it's at. In addition, these half-length darts are pretty sharp. Now, I do want to point out something else that's just hilarious. If you drop this and put the suppressor back on, two things happen that are pretty funny, and this was similar to the Nexus, but there's just no way it's not intentional. So a Mega Dart has loose fit up till this point, but then you push it, And the last bit is like actually like Nerf press fit sealed breech. And the performance when you do that is like not bad. It actually fires mega darts. Now, of course, we know from past experience that if it'll fire mega darts, right, you can absolutely load up a rival round and do the same thing with that. The rival round performance isn't quite as good because the fit is just a wee bit different, but it will fire them pretty consistently. And interestingly enough, and it's almost impossible to believe that this is a coincidence, if you don't breech load it and instead take a genuine Nerf hyper round, load it into the front of the adapter like so, and then plug that one in to the old Stryker, you actually fire the hyper rounds pretty hard. Now we'll put all of those over the chronograph more or less just for a giggle, but we're gonna take the entire blaster downstairs, we're gonna put it over the chronograph, we're gonna let you know what it's doing with these different like included, I guess we'll call these max darts for the time being, and then we'll test it with a variety of all of the funky stuff. We'll show you a little bit more of the Talon compatibility. Also, I just gotta point out, the red Talons in the gray adapter in this guy look pretty sharp. Like, man, this is a cool one. All right, guys, I am crazy excited to get the Stryker over the chronograph, get some numbers. I'm also really excited to shoot some of these new target darts downrange and see what we're up against there. But before we do that, I just want to kind of point out the usual compatibilities. This is an In-Strike magazine that's a decade old at this point, complete with some of the Fortnite Nerf darts. And theoretically, the Stryker should be able to perform with those relatively well. So let's put, you know, 151. That's actually the best elite dart shot I've seen in a long time. 149, 146. Why not? While they're certainly not the most accurate tool in the shed, this is full-length darts flinging at 150. Whee! That was well over a 100-foot shot, but hopefully the instant replay will show you that it just kind of caught the wind and went up. So let's go ahead and put a couple of their full-length darts over right now. We've of course got the new max darts, I guess. Throw a couple of those in the magazine, chamber those. 142. And while they're certainly more accurate, they're not going as wildly. The FPS on those is a little lighter. As always, Nerf darts are very lightweight, which is part of why they're so ludicrously inaccurate. They're also very inconsistent in a lot of ways, and so that's why they get slightly higher initial velocity numbers, but initial velocity is not everything. Let's throw our adapter in and start testing with some other ammo types here. So first off, I guess let's try this. This is 3 AF Pro darts. These are, of course, the Walmart exclusive half-length darts, but since, you know, I have 3 of them, why not see how they perform? They tend to outperform the bamboo darts from time to time, so maybe in this breech setup, well, 152 isn't bad. 153 is a little bit better, and then 154 is even better than that. So clearly the chronograph just wants to dial it up hotter and hotter. So let's pull this out now. This is, of course, the included half-length magazine with the max half-length darts. Let's put a few of those over, and then let's put a few down range and see if this is truly the competitive worthy blaster that we hope it is. 153, 151, 146, one fluffy dog. Hey, Jinxie. Before anybody calls Jinxie Jinx scruffy, she's getting groomed really soon here. It's due tomorrow. All right, that's plenty of data points over there. Let's take it over this way, put a few down range. So clearly the max darts are on par. They're pretty equivalent to the AF Pro darts. And like I said before, they're gonna cost the same amount of money and be readily available on retail shelves, which is just good for the hobby. In addition to being good for us, it's good for the hobby. So let's take our usual tree into account and see what we're up against there. Well, that's a hit on the first shot. And we're definitely getting straight shots, and we're definitely getting the range that we're looking for. I'm gonna angle it just slightly and see if we can break that like 100, 110. Goodbye, max dart. So these are pretty sharp. Overall, like I'm quite pleased. I've got some old paint cans sitting over here. I figure why not, right? So plenty of power in the Stryker. I think that it's just as handsome, although perhaps it will miss some of that orange on here without the suppressor. And as you can see, I've already started dabbling with the outsides. I'm excited to start dabbling with the inside. So if you're not already subscribed to the #1 hobbyist channel around, go ahead, leave me a like, throw me a subscription, comment down below what should I do to the Stryker first. The mod guide on this bad boy is going to be coming very, very, very soon. We're already starting to develop products that kind of fit the overall aesthetic and language of it. I think that this molding on here is quite sharp, and so we've mirrored that in our front sight for the iron. I think that it's got a lot going for it. I like it. I want to say that I like it as much as the Nexus Pro, but the Nexus Pro is such a special product because of what it means for the hobby. I think that I still might like the Stryker more because what can you say if the colors match, right? It's a pretty spicy primary class blaster that's delivering the hits, giving us superior performance at a price point that you just can't beat. This $50 price point for intro to competitive Nerf is absolutely exceptional, and the fact that you can pick up one in the car on your way to the war the same way that you could like buy gasoline or a Coke is just absolutely unreal. What an incredible time to be in the hobby and to have competitive spooling up in the way that it is right now. I'm super excited to talk more about that in the mod guide. I can't wait to crack it open and see how much of it is necessarily Nexus or other primary or platform compatible. I think that there's a lot of things to like about it as is, and I'm hoping that it still has some secrets to share beyond just O-rings in its stock and adjustable tuning caps. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the Stryker in the comment section down below. And again, mod suggestions as soon as you possibly can, because I'm going to start filming that very, very, very soon. Much love, Blast on, Drac out.